Do I have to really lean into it?
I think you'll be okay, especially once we get into it, and I know the conversation's gonna elevate. So
yeah, once you get really excited about what you're talking about.
Yeah, the waves are gonna go up.
Waves are looking crisp.
They're looking crisp. They're looking nice and purple.
They're
over
looking
there.
like that 04 tsunami.
Damn, topical.
Tropical.
Didn't they make a movie about that?
Yeah, it's called it's got Naomi Watts in it. It's called, I've seen it too. And Ewan McGregor, Safe something.
I'm gonna search it.
Naomi Watts, Ewan McGregor.
2012 action thriller film? No, that's got Jason Statham in it. That's not it. That is definitely not it. Well, there's a film called Safe that came out in 1995.
No.
I don't think that's it.
Type in Ewan McGregor. You got to go to the actor's profile.
Okay.
And I don't know if it's Safe's in the title. I can see it. I've seen the movie.
And it would have probably come out not long after the tsunami actually happened.
I'm going to guess anywhere from 2014 to 2011.
There's The Island.
Nope.
Stay. Is that it?
No.
I don't think it's Stormbreaker.
No. That's the name of a vehicle.
Incendiary, Deception.
Oh, maybe it's not Ewan McGregor. Hold on.
There's definitely a movie about the tsunami.
Let me get it for you.
Okay.
I don't think it might not be Ewan McGregor.
I'm a lost sheep.
The guy, there's another guy that looks like Timothy Oliphant.
Oh. Shit. Maybe I know who you're talking about.
Hold on. No, that's not it. It is.
Wasn't Tom Holland in that movie?
As a kid?
Yeah,
he might have been. Now it's a race.
Little baby. Yeah. Now we're gonna see who comes out first. Roles and awards for Tom Holland. I'm going the Tom Holland route. It's not The Impossible, is it?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Click on that. Yeah.
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 Ewan McGregor, Naomi Watts.
Yeah, it was Ewan McGregor.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. I was right.
It came out 2012.
Yeah. That movie is
So they waited a while after the tsunami. Wow. Yeah. In the 2004 Indian Ocean tsunami. Okay.
That's why we got crisp waves. Maybe
that's right. It all ties back in, baby.
We just came full circle.
That's what we're here for at the Neon
Completely.
Crew. Speaking of full circle,
yeah,
I'm gonna intro.
All right,
Jacqueline, was I taken off the email chain with Marvel?
Oh, I got an idea.
Yeah, yeah. That's Jim Cummings from the Beta Test.
Yeah, she told me to take you off that. I can't. Yeah. Anyways,
there's so much to that movie. Like, I wanted to find a better quote, but I didn't have time. So
they're all. Oh my god,
they're all great.
Yeah,
it's one of those things where like it's just hard to pick one because so many of them are just really fucking cool.
No, I don't want any of that. I have an ulcer. What's an ulcer? It's like I got a hole in my esophagus and it's killing me from the inside.
It's slowly killing me.
As he's trying to shake hands with Raymond.
Yeah.
And we'll get into it.
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
Boy, oh boy. Speaking of that movie and how it incorporates the WGA, got a bit of news about that.
Let's go. I was wondering if there'd be more stuff on that.
Yeah. So the WGA reached a tentative deal with the Studio Guild. So what that means is they actually met with the producers and they struck up a deal with each other that has to be written out in contract form still. But what that means is that the WGA is no longer picketing, and it'll probably take a week or so before final contracts are written and they will release what was negotiated to the public. So hopefully in like a week from this recording, it might be out by the time this episode gets released, but hopefully soon we'll know what the stipulations were to end the writer's strike. Basically what this means is that the writer's strike is looking like it's going to be over soon.
Yeah.
So that will move things in the right direction of writers getting fair compensation, more content being created, and also will probably be a step forward in the SAG actors going to get a deal with the Producers Guild. So, things are looking positive.
Better. Yeah.
They're looking better.
Yeah.
They said that they can't release any of the specifics of the deal right now because that would be going against the agreement that they had. But like I said, we'll probably learn in like a week or two. So I would imagine it's probably a lot of the same concerns that, obviously first started the strike being quelled: fair compensation, streaming revenue, concerns with AI. I think we'll probably learn more about the AI specifics when it comes to actors in movies too.
That's yes, from what I'm gathering.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where we just kind of have to wait and see how it plays out. Mm-hmm. But I will keep looking at what is happening, and I will report it back the next time we record. So
sweet.
Yeah,
that's exciting.
It is. It'll be nice because we'll get some movies rolling and the ball will go, and yeah, that'll be cool.
I can't tell if we've been hurt by content yet or not.
It's so weird because I feel like this strike has been really notable because obviously it's the most recent thing, and because it, to me, feels like it's gone on for a long time when really this has only been like not even half a year of them striking, which I don't know, maybe that's a long time for
it's a decent amount of time,
this sort of thing, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not much time at all. So,
yeah.
We've had probably like a month or two kind of drought of movies being released or delayed or whichever. But I don't know. I feel like it'll probably go back on track pretty soon.
Yeah.
Like to the point where like it doesn't even really feel like we're off track that much. It's just, upcoming movies that we're looking forward to are getting delayed because actors can't promote it yet because of the strikes and the unions and everything going on. So I don't know. Like we'll be okay. I think.
I do too.
Yeah, I'm not too worried about it, and I wasn't really worried about it that much before. It's just it was mostly a matter of time thing. Like, okay, are we actually going to reach a deal, or is this going to be some perpetual thing that just keeps going until the end of time?
Like anything, there's always a new CBA, and they got to come out. And once you're near the end of your contract, they're always gonna. I mean, not always, but you're gonna go on strike if you feel like it's undue. And I don't know how long they sign these things, if it's every 2 years or 4 years, but
yeah. So I guess we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
Keep your eyes to the skies.
That's that old saying.
That's
they say.
An old saying.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know. Is that an old saying? I feel like it's one of those sayings that like is old but like still applies to this day. I don't know.
Old sayings can still apply.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm very tired if you can't fucking tell. I don't know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, that old phrase.
Yeah. That old saying back in my day. My grandma used to say can't died in the cornfield. Did you ever hear that one?
Can't died
died in the like if you said you couldn't do something like, "Oh, I can't ride this skateboard."
Like the word can't died in the cornfield.
Yeah. Like I think it was supposed to be a way of saying like, "Oh, you shouldn't use the word can't because it's dead.
Yeah.
It's useless to you."
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like you can't, don't ever say you can't do something. You can do something.
Yeah.
Was it a motivational tactic?
I think so. It was just a really weird boomer way of doing it. So I always thought it was kind of odd, but
I thought she was going with like the double negative. Like it's can't die in the cornfield.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'll have to consult my dad about that.
Okay.
I'll research further. I got more news.
Sweet.
Have you been aware of this Ashton Kutcher stuff going on at all?
I want to say I've seen some stuff pop up on social media, but it's hard for me to always tell between like good stories, bad stories, and who cares?
Right. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
I just thought this was interesting because Danny Masterson was recently convicted of raping someone, and he's sentenced to 30 years in prison.
Yep.
And it was made public that a lot of the cast from that 70s show wrote character witness letters to the judge of the case. And a few of those actors were part of the main cast, two of them being Mila Kunis and Ashton Kutcher, writing the judge about how great of a character Danny Masterson is and how they're kind of writing on his behalf and blah, blah, blah. He's our friend. Please go easy on him.
Wow.
Like, he's made some mistakes and, I'm sure he'll learn from it, but, maybe don't be as harsh to him. I'm paraphrasing, of course. I haven't read the actual letters, but people found out that they wrote those and they naturally got upset because they said to themselves, how can you defend a rapist?
Yeah.
And how can you just sort of spit in the face of the victim like that?
Yes.
It's kind of shite. So then Ashton Kutcher and Mila Kunis made an apology video.
Oh, I did see. Yeah, there's a meme of it.
Yeah.
That says, the one that I saw that said, every celebrity's home has that like average looking like, media, like
the background,
middle income family room.
Yeah.
Where they can get in there if they have to do an apology. And there's like 3 different actors. Like you just would walk in there and think that they were at like their grandma's house doing it.
Mm-hmm. They have to display like the most humble background that they can.
Yeah.
And relatable background in order to come across as sincere.
Well, did you see what they were wearing too?
Oh yeah. Like Mila Kunis, she doesn't have any makeup and she's got like this grandma sweater on.
Yeah.
And then he's got like just a gray t-shirt or something.
Yep.
Like nothing flashy at all.
Yep.
And what's even funnier is, and I don't know how true this is, so take it with a grain of salt, but somebody posted about how that background that they were using to shoot in front of is actually surrounded by like a bunch of luxurious things because someone pinpointed it in like a house tour video that they did one time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Again, I don't know how true it is.
Sure.
But
conjecture.
It's it would be unsurprising if that was the actual case. And so then because of them making an apology video basically saying, we're sorry we wrote the character witness letters, but he's still our friend, like half apologizing, but not really apologizing. And then Ashton Kutcher recently stepped down from being the head of his anti-child sex trafficking organization that he helped founded, because I don't know if you know anything about that, but like before all this shit happened, he was mostly known recently for being an advocate against child sex abuse.
Yeah.
And people often lauded him as being like this wholesome symbol of doing the right thing and helping people out. And then all this stuff happened and it kind of is a bit of a PR oopsie on his part. So he stepped down from doing that because he didn't feel he deserved to be in charge of that sort of thing after all this happened, which, I mean, I guess good for him for recognizing that he fucked up, but I don't know. I just wanted to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, this is like slippery slope. Having known some people that have messed up before, now granted not doing that, but have messed up before, you're looking at Danny Masterson. It's like, all right, well, if you have that in you, like, how much longer would this have gone on? And from what I thought I've heard is that it wasn't just like one person. Like there's like they think it might have been more. I don't really know, because I'm not. I hear that stuff and it's like, all right, way to go, guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're friends with the person and they're gonna serve their time for what they did. I mean, they're trying to put him into a good light and say, hey, we're gonna help him out. He's still our friend. I know that he did something bad, and to me, it's like one of those things where, all right, did he do it the one time? Did he do it when he was much younger? Is this something that's still going on? Like what type of behavior are we looking at? Is it continued behavior? Because that speaks more to Danny Masterson on that and saying like that's a bad dude. Mm-hmm. Not to say any of this is ever worth, pardoning, but what I'm, if he did some dumb stuff, some dumb shit like that when he was much younger and recognized it and stopped it, like, yeah, you're gonna go into timeout, So that's why I try to stay away from all that, because I mean, it's like, how do you support this and that? And it's like, well, some of it is justice, and we're not the ones that get to, make sure it gets served, and the other aspect of it is, if he's a bad dude, I mean, you got to recognize that you made a bad choice in friends.
Well, what's interesting too is, So obviously the smart thing to do would have been to just not write those letters at all,
Well,
and to just like distance yourself from it.
You're kind of doing it out of, it should be like private.
I was wondering that too. Like, did they not know that those were going to be public?
So they went into like public records.
Yeah.
As part of like, see, that's what I'm saying. Like with the trial and case, like how does, like that's, I don't know.
I don't know, man. Like, and I had another point that I'll get to like after this one, but to me, like Hollywood trials are so weird as a concept. Like I was thinking back, and I was having a conversation with a coworker about, I think it was the Amber Heard and Johnny Depp trial.
Yeah.
It's so weird to me how, and obviously what Danny Masterson did allegedly is a lot worse of a thing than what those two went through. But it's so interesting to me that in our culture, we take these celebrities and we kind of view them through the lens of a televised courtroom for a matter that probably if they were just two normal people, nobody would ever care about or give a shit about. But because they're Amber Heard and Johnny Depp, we just gobble that shit up, and it's televised for everybody to see. It's a defamation trial. It's a basically almost a civil suit between two parties.
Yeah.
That probably should have been private, but because they're such huge celebrities, that shit was live streamed. So you can look at every single minute of that trial on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
And that's such a weird concept to me. I don't know.
Kind of. I mean, yeah.
But my ultimate point...
Very Jim Cummings statement right there.
That's a good lead-in to our movie we're going to talk about. But the ultimate other point I want to make too is Danny Masterson is a Scientologist, and I'm wondering, and a lot of people are also wondering, if a lot of Danny Masterson's friends, celebrity friends, weren't forced by the Church of Scientology to write these letters in the hopes of lowering his sentence, you know, because he's one of their boys. And then
is Mila and Ashton Scientology?
I don't think they are, but I'm thinking maybe because Danny is, that the Church of Scientology maybe had a hand in forcing them to.
Oh, you think they strong-armed Mila and Ashton?
Well, perhaps if they like had things on them. I don't know if there's any sort of like blackmail material, and I'm just going off of conjecture. So yeah. This is all theoretical, but
it's a fun thought to have.
It's a thought. It's a thought.
How much
exercise.
does Scientology really run Hollywood?
Probably a good portion of it. I mean, shit, we already know, because like, what, 20% of the actors over there are probably Scientologists?
Do they have to collect a tax benefit for something?
Yeah.
Like, I'm almost certain of it that the like if you got into that religion, you pay your like association fee, and because you're part of it, you know, you get your on your 1099 or your whatever you're filling out, you know, you get to write off these tax breaks, your 1040.
I mean, shit, I don't doubt that there's some sort of monetary gain for them. That's probably why most of them join it.
That's what I'm saying. Reason. It's got to be like, it's like call. It's like, they're probably like, just keep it really secret because it's a bunch of like accountants that run it.
Yeah.
And they're like, listen, we can get a bunch of people in here, charge them, you know, the savings that they get. Like, let's say we can save you 30% of your taxes, but we're taking 8% of it. They both win, you know.
Yeah, they both come out on top.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the ultimate Scientology lesson right there.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just thought that was an interesting piece of news right there. You mentioned Jim Cummings. Speaking of Jim Cummings.
Yeah. Do we want to do that one first?
Sure.
All right.
We watched a film called The Beta Test. It's on Hulu, and Mac pretty much paired it up with Melancholia, so I'll let him take it away.
Yeah, it was, you know, I had heard about this movie from this other podcast that I listened to a couple years ago. And we reviewed The Wolf of Snow Hollow, right?
No.
We didn't?
Mm-mm.
I just had it on, but we didn't talk about it. Did you see it?
I haven't seen it. Beta Test is the first Jim Cummings movie that I've seen.
Wow. I thought we definitely talked. Anyways. So I had heard about this movie, so we were kind of looking at another movie to come up with to do, and I was like, well, you know what? Why don't we? I was like, I just want to get this one out. It's up on everything, and I've been wanting to see it. So The Beta Test. It came out in 2021. Written and directed by Jim Cummings. Starring Jim Cummings as Jordan Hines, Virginia Newcomb as Caroline, his fiance, PJ McCabe as PJ Pruitt, and then a whole bunch of other people in there that you're probably not going to recognize unless you did. I did not.
No.
And essentially what it's about, an Hollywood agent receives a mysterious letter for an anonymous sexual encounter and becomes ensnared in a sinister world of lying, infidelity, and digital data. Jim Cummings at the beginning of this saying, it really like cold open, right?
Yeah, it was a very specific type of cold open that made me think that this movie was going to be ultimately not what it ended up being.
Yeah, agreed.
And it was an interesting setup, especially watching it with Megan, because she's very startled by sudden violence and
there's very sudden violence,
grotesqueness in films.
Yeah,
and that one stood out. I was like, holy shit, is this movie going to be like this the whole time?
There's this other movie called Hush, and you know how that's just that little it's a 1-inch prick into your jugular,
yeah.
And then it's just over. I've always said that's like the worst way to go out. That'd be the most frustrating way to die.
Well, it's spoilers for the Beta Test, by the way.
Well, this is in the first 3 minutes, so like,
yeah,
I don't think you're really spoiled. Yeah.
True.
You just won't be ready for it until like. Well, I was ready. You didn't think that was happening?
I knew that violence
tension
was going to happen. I just didn't know it was going to happen that way because it's so. The way he does it is so nonchalant, and it takes her a second to process it.
Yes.
And then that's when really like the whole thing kind of comes crashing down on her, and it was very effective, cold open to a movie. You're just left wondering like what the hell is going on. It almost. I mean this in the best way possible. It almost felt like a TV show that way, because like episodes of Breaking Bad.
Yep.
It'll have a cold open, and you think it has nothing to do with what's been going on in the story before, and then it just happens, and you're like, how the fuck is this going to tie back into everything? And then the episode happens, and it shows you, and it's really well done. And I think that for the most part, this movie does that also.
Yeah, sweet. So, yeah, so that it's cold open, and then Jim Cummings goes and opens his mailbox and finds like a Ashley Madison letter in there. It's from Purple Envelope LLC, and they just take it from there. It's kind of proposes something for him, and you go down this rabbit hole with him. I thought it was like a sort of like a Good Time or Uncut Gems-esque,
Interesting.
Yeah, very character unraveling.
Yeah, I definitely see where you would have those comparisons. I was thinking of other movies going along with this and like TV shows, like specifically with the main character, because Jim Cummings in this movie plays a really fun main character to follow.
Good. Okay.
Because I'm a sucker for that type of character where they're all like borderline unhinged.
Neurotic, right?
Neurotic, like manic.
Yes.
Basically the entire time.
Their mask of humanity is slowly being unveiled, and they don't know how to handle it.
Yeah, and it's such a good way of telling that type of character in this storytelling environment, because I'm a fan of when they do that and the other characters in the environment are reacting mostly in a normal way. Like they're acting like normal human beings for the most part against this really absurd character. And it reminded me a lot of the way that Glenn Howerton plays Dennis Reynolds in Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. A very similar ilk, and also, and I think this is probably a source of inspiration for Jim Cummings, perhaps Patrick Bateman a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
From American Psycho, especially when you think about like the whole concept of him sort of putting on a mask and putting visually his best self forward when on the inside he's kind of rotting to the core, and you start to sort of see those cracks throughout the rest of the film.
Yep.
And I think that's probably one of my favorite parts of this movie.
is just his unraveling.
It's just
right?
the character unraveling and him becoming more and more manic and desperate and trying his best to figure out what's going on. It almost reminded me of a more comedic on the nose version of Under the Silver Lake in a way, where he's trying to figure out this mystery and what's going on. It's set in Hollywood.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. So one, I'm giving Jim Cummings, I think, an A or A plus for this. I loved him. I thought
his performance is my
that's what I'm saying. His
favorite thing
performance,
in this movie.
I haven't laughed like out loud at like a lot of unintentional funny moments, and this movie delivered on like every time. You know, like we were talking about when he tells he goes in there and he's trying to, he can't speak Japanese, so he's trying to go in there. She asks him if he wants tea or coffee, and he goes, "No, I'll ask my assistant." So he botches that, because she's like, "I'll get it." He goes, "No, we'll get it for you." And she goes, "No, do you want some?" And he goes, "No, I don't want any. No, thanks." And she goes, "Well, why not?" He's like, "I got the ulcer." And then, she's like, "Well, what is that?" And he like goes to describe what an ulcer is as he's trying to like present himself.
Yeah.
When he goes to the hotel and he needs to get the receipt, and he completely babbles about who he is, and then the hotel clerk calls him out on it.
Yeah, and he's just like stone faced the entire time, still trying to like kind of save whatever humiliation he'd be subjected to.
And then he goes, and then he uses it. It plays on later on in the film. Yeah, I think you got to watch the film just to watch him in it.
Yeah,
I mean, I really liked his performance.
He was great, and it's telling of how good of an actor he is, because it doesn't really feel like he's being held back by anything. And obviously, this is like for the most part his whole creative making and his creative decisions going on, like him directing the movie, starring in it. It's almost like this is a better executed version of Fool's Paradise that we got from Charlie Day earlier this year.
I've not seen that.
That would have been an interesting one to pair with this one, because it's almost the inverse of this movie in that Charlie Day plays a mute, and instead of him being unhinged and manic and desperate the entire movie, everyone else in the film around him is. And it doesn't work.
Okay.
Because it doesn't really give you a good idea of the stakes and kind of what these characters are bouncing against.
Yeah.
This movie does such a good job with that, and it's so compelling to see. I remember watching, I think it was the scene where it's towards the beginning of the film when he's in the party and he's trying to get this dude's attention.
Yep.
And he hits him in the balls, pretty much tells him off to his face that he's a scumbag and that he's not worth anything, and like you can kind of see the smile slowly fade from his face.
Yep.
I think it was in that scene and in that moment specifically that I said to myself, this is going to be something that I didn't think it was going to be based on the cold opening.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Like it's good. This is going in a direction that I like quite a bit. So I was a fan of this, like mostly throughout.
Yeah.
So I don't know, my thoughts. This is why I wanted to watch it again before you came over. It's because like I'm trying to remember certain specifics of like his performance and lines and like the way he delivered them. But there's so many instances.
Dude,
I can't remember anything, like any just one thing.
He goes off. It's very, in this at least, it's very hard to pinpoint. Like I know, like in certain contexts of like what he was talking about, and but he has so many different interactions with so many different people, and the whole time he's trying to figure out who's doing it, and he struggled. He can't, they can't pinpoint anything, and he's kind of losing his grasp on like maintaining his relationships, maintaining this fakeness because it's just eating away at him like this ulcer is, and like when he goes to the hotel, dude, I keep saying the best one. He goes to the hotel people or his apartment complex, and he wants to see the security camera. So he got called off by the cops before, and he goes there and he leads off with, "I'm a cop. I don't have a badge. It's unprofessional. It's not what we do." And So he leads off with it because he got called out by the last guy, right?
Yeah.
So he made sure to cover it. And then he goes into his whole thing. They're like, well, we still don't know. Don't you need like a warrant or something like that? And then he goes, I live here, goddammit. I pay my rent on time.
Yeah.
I'm a good tenant. And he goes, I'm a Hollywood agent. So he completely blew it again.
Yeah.
And he's just sitting there. He goes, okay, so let me see the fucking camera.
Yeah.
And then they're like, because I think what happened is like the more and more he started to, well, I shouldn't say it like that, because then he goes to the next one and then he gets to where the purple LLC, the actual envelopes are, and he's totally enriched in his lie of being a detective. So
yeah, he's just totally enamored in it. I think that's one of the great things about it too, is that with this movie, because Jim Cummings had like such great creative control over everything, if you had stuck another actor in there, I don't think it would have come across as effective as Jim Cummings playing this guy. Because he's got such an energy that I feel like only a few actors could probably match. And such a good flow of speaking, and it just feels like he really knew what he wanted to do with this movie, and he did it the best that he could. Especially with the budget of this, like $250,000, which, I mean, it's not a small amount of money, but in terms of Hollywood movie making, that's pretty low.
Oh yeah, especially for where this thing was shot at.
Like,
that's not bad.
Shooting in locations in Hollywood and like LA and everything. Like,
you need to get permits and stuff.
And for that low of a budget, it looks pretty good. Like,
this thing looked fantastic. My knocks aren't necessarily on how this thing was shot. I thought there's a lot of fun shots. I'm sure there's maybe a couple Easter eggs in here and there. My biggest gripe is the editing of this thing.
That's interesting. Mine is mostly, I think, with like some of the sound mixing.
Oh, really?
And the sound design. A little bit, yeah. Because some of it, I don't want to compare it to like a Chris Nolan movie, since those are like kind of the poster child for bad sound mixing. But there were a few moments throughout where it felt like I really couldn't, like the music was almost too low in some points, and then it was almost too loud in some points, and it was kind of like overbearing with the characters, and maybe that was like the intention of it, but I don't know, the unevenness of it kind of to me felt...
You're describing like
it
Jim
was
Cummings' character, like you just...
taking me out of it, and that's what I say. Maybe it's on purpose, but I don't know. For my viewing experience, it wasn't the most pleasant.
Right. Mine was editing and scene logistics.
Do you have any specific scenes that you're thinking of?
The time frame. A lot of time there isn't time in this movie isn't exactly explained. You don't know kind of what you're dealing with, and with some of the editing and some of the montages as they're going through, you're seeing somewhat of a time lapse.
Yeah,
but you also don't have like. What would have been really effective is if they would have had a calendar date on when they needed to have Raymond signed, and they could have said, hey, it's going to be your anniversary on this date. You guys are getting married on this date. Like kind of set up a couple cornerstones so that way we, as an audience, knew what we were dealing with. Because like he gets the letter in the mail, and then it's done, and. So here's my thing. They get the letter in the mail, right? And now he's trying to figure out who it is. And they've had some of these montages. Remember, he's like, so he has sex with this anonymous person, and then life is all of a sudden better. You remember seeing how happy he was?
Yeah, for like a week or so.
That's what I'm saying, but you don't know.
But they don't give you an indication of time. The most I think they ever tell you is that they're 6 weeks away from being married.
Yeah,
I think. If I'm remembering right.
At the very beginning, it's something like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
So really, like, between the beginning of the film and the end of the film, there's really not a whole long period of time that goes on, because they also have, like, the cabin trip that they take, and they sort of argue through their problems, and then they sort of reconcile a little bit. Yeah. And then life is happy again until he sees her in, like, a coffee shop.
Yep.
And then he confronts her.
Well, and that we don't know if it's her.
We don't know if it's her, but my ultimate point being, like, at that point, you're supposed to, I think, feel like a certain amount of time has passed in order for them to go through this. But like you said, you don't really know any sort of specifics. There's no, like, real reference of time throughout a lot of this movie.
No, there's not. And that's where editing gets choppy then, because if you're not, I don't think, like, editing-wise, I think you're doing a good job with editing if you give a sense of without having a calendar date or knowing what time it is, like having a sense that time is elapsing and knowing kind of where we're at in that time frame.
Without having like a little subtitle fade in saying like June 9th.
Right.
2021 or whatever.
Exactly. That's what, and I thought I'd have a little bit better of an idea when they got to the, what they call him, Mr. Purple, the guy at the end. That was running the algorithm.
Johnny PayPal.
Johnny PayPal.
Johnny PayPal. Nobody is named Johnny PayPal.
He looks very sternly at the guy and says, "That's an alias. No one's named Johnny PayPal."
Yeah.
Like that. Oh.
Johnny Pay. That's ridiculous. Nobody is named Johnny PayPal.
Dude. And then he said, "Oh, you didn't get the third letter." And then it's...
So, yeah, I'm glad you brought that up because that's kind of where my confusion started coming in, and that's a lot of where I think the biggest gripes for this movie for me take place.
I think I'm gonna be with you on it.
Yeah, is that scene specifically because I watched this with Megan and we were trying to, because we both liked the movie, we both enjoyed it, we thought it was really funny and well made overall, but we were trying to figure out what exactly that scene meant, what his character's motivation was in that specific moment.
Who's Johnny's or
either of them.
Yeah.
And more specifically, I guess, Jim Cummings. But
right.
The way that scene played out, it seemed like I really didn't fully get what was going on. But at the same time, I don't know if there was anything else to get. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So the scene happens. He figures out that this guy is causing this mass invite of these secret encounters over the internet, and he tracks him down to his house, and he's brandishing a hammer and a gas mask, and he's gonna go get this guy. And so he goes to the basement and smashes his hand, hits him a few times, and corners him and says, he doesn't really say anything. Like Jim Cummings just kind of stands there with the hammer, and the guy sort of openly and audibly starts deducing what this guy wants.
Right.
Because he tosses him the letter, and he's like, "Oh, you didn't get the third letter. That would have told you to mail in $5,000 if you want to find out the name."
Yes.
And then he sort of like kind of becomes really bold and stands up to him and says like, "You're not going to get the name. I'm bigger than you are. You're just a name everybody's going to forget," or like something like that.
Yeah.
I forget the exact phrasing. But the way that scene plays out, it's like, why couldn't Jim Cummings just threaten the guy more with the hammer to get the name? And also, why ultimately, if he left without getting the name, if it wasn't that big of a deal anyway, then why did he go there in the first place? To just find out what was happening, to uncover a mystery, or was it to get the name and he just felt like not interrogating him anymore? So
I'm going to go out, and I think that this, for me, besides the editing, the bigger miss on this thing is I think this was supposed to be more of a statement film about where we're at in society with social media. Where I think what he was saying to Jim Cummings was that you're an algorithm. All you are is 0 or a 1. You fit into this mold. I can take advantage of everything. And I think that Johnny PayPal was essentially just like big data, if you will, Facebook, who's ever pulling all of this information to compile a profile on us to exploit our deepest and most intimate secrets.
Yeah.
And I think at that moment, as this guy was going on, his soliloquy to Jim Cummings about this, that, and the other, I think his motivation was there to interrogate the guy and get that out. And then Jim Cummings had a fear or a realization of ultimately what this meant for him and his life, and I think
like it was just supposed to be like an epiphany thing,
kind of like when it's like under the Silver Lake, a lot of that stuff. That remember when it's like, I don't know if this is real or not, and then I don't want to say spoilers, but there's a character that pops up that was supposed to be the horror figure that ends up, and they're like, what the hell?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
It's that unreliable narration that's going on. I think with this one, not to say it was necessarily unreliable, I think they were using Johnny PayPal as that kind of peak moment in the film to make their statement about where we've come and how we're exploited and what we mean to, me personally, I think it was way too over grasping. I was down with the Hollywood agents, and I think they were trying to use them as a device, to kind of portray him at least in a certain way, and that's a little bit more fun than the typical person, your average person. And then I think what they got to was they started looking at how we're exploited and how people can take our information and get us to do things that we wouldn't necessarily want to do, and they get all the money and they don't have any of the repercussions. And so he gets to that point and he's got a chance, like he said, to kill him and take him out or do whatever he wants. And I think that's what it ultimately stands for, is you have no control over what's going on. And that's why that guy started laughing and was like, you're nothing to me. That's why I'm not telling you. There's nothing you could do to make me tell you this.
Yeah. It reminded me, I'm glad you brought up Under the Silver Lake, because it reminded me of the scene where he like confronts the guy at the piano.
Yeah.
Like, no real spoilers, but
you
know what scene I'm talking about. It felt very much of a similar ilk.
Yeah.
Just with different results, I guess.
Yep. And I think that's what it was intended for, is that, like I said, I think this movie had a very higher theme in mind, or message in mind,
than kind of what it landed.
Yeah.
I
That's
think
what a lot of people.
I have the same feelings as you do on that, because it's one of those films where and I completely agree with you. Like, it definitely has those themes of like social media and kind of like it's futile to try and fight against it sort of thing. I think it's one of those films where it tries to reach for all sorts of different themes and different messages that it wants to touch on, not really succeeding at one particular one or all of them at all, but just like kind of touching on them and saying like, here they are, and not really doing much with them.
Exactly. Because there's a lot of flavor in that soup, but it doesn't have a bite.
Because to me, the most prominent part of it was sort of the infidelity angle of it, and cheating being like the ultimate sin, and how it's treated in such a visceral way in this movie, because there's those scenes sprinkled throughout, and it's, the cold open included, where the spouse of whoever gets the letter and whoever indulges in the invite meets their demise because their loved one found out, and they get emotional and they get violent, and these people end up dead. And to me, it felt almost like a sort of virus thing that was going on in the film. especially with the way people were acting. Like, it was as if they were turning into zombies starting to kill them.
Right.
And I think this to me is cemented in the end when Caroline is looking on the phone when they're sitting in the diner booth, and she goes like 8 dead currently, and like something like that, because of like the rise in homicides. I don't know. It had that weird element of a virus type thing with the infidelity, and I wanted to know what you thought of that.
It's I had not put a virus like Pontypool virus.
Kinda, a little bit.
What I took away from it was that guy, the Johnny PayPal, when Jim Cummings came in there to beat his ass down, and he said, "I'll get you the information," he released every name to everyone. And I think what was happening was everyone was starting to find out about that infidelity.
Oh, okay.
And so like when she's like 8 more dead, like I think there's something. I think there's something along the lines of Jim Cummings having like what's his name in this freaking film?
Jordan,
because I don't want to keep saying that it's a mouthful.
It is.
Jordan
Good one.
has a come to Jesus moment, a baptism, where if you notice, everyone that got caught was always lying. So they were obviously.
I did notice that.
They were, and so instead of him lying, which another funny moment, because he's about to tell her, and he goes, "Oh fuck it, I'll just say it." And he goes, "I've been drinking. I'm addicted to nicotine." But he leads off with, he goes like, "I've been drinking again," and I started laughing because I was like, he is gonna lie. He's gonna go down the blame alcohol. But then he purges everything out, and
he kind of like throws it in there in the middle of everything, doesn't he?
A little bit.
Everything
in the film, because as a character, he's so like almost unreliable. You don't know when he's telling the truth or not. Like, he said 5 years sober, and then he starts having drinks again, and like nothing bad came of it when he had the drinks. But then he's like, he's constantly smoking, constantly.
That scene where he gets the vape had me dying.
Oh, in the lockbox.
When PJ goes, it's not what you think, and then he opens it, it's a fucking vape.
He just looks up. He goes,
Jesus Christ, that was so fucking funny.
He purges all that stuff out, and so like I'm like, oh, that's why he didn't, because he was actually truthful when all these other people had been lying. And I think the ending of the film, when he gets the number, it's more so of like, at the end of the day, you can blame all these things that you want, but if you don't have accountability over your actions, then you're gonna sit. It doesn't matter what medium it is.
Yeah.
Any sort of vice that pops up will render you. But it was all of it. I thought was just really poorly delivered, and it was they were trying to wrap up so much right there to make this overarching message, and like it just came out really flat and confusing.
I'm glad you feel the same way I do about that.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't sure if I wasn't sure if it was one of those things where the movie was being ambiguous in a way where I just wasn't getting it, or if it was being ambiguous in a way where it didn't have much to offer. And I do feel like it's the latter, but I wasn't 100% on it, and I wanted to talk to you about it.
I don't want to say much to offer. I think there is things that you could pull from this. I just think that they went way too big of a swing. And I think he wanted to tie in a lot of fake Hollywood with where we're going, the differences between where technology started and where we're at, and what it's leading to, and people's insecurities and how they what they do to cope with those insecurities, which is like what you see with the infidelity, and and how it gets all tied back into us as humans, and really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter, because someone's going to put their number down and you're going to look and be like, well, I might do it, and it's like, I don't know if there was some sort of growth in all that. I don't know as a character where he went, and that's why I'm like, I think it's more about a message of society than it is with Jordan and what he's done. I think the whole who the lady is, that mystery aspect of it is to me is a metaphor for that seeking, that desire, the intimacy of being with a stranger. I don't think at the end of the day, I don't think we ever saw who that was. And he's getting flashbacks. He thought it might have been his wife at one point. Like he just doesn't know. And really, what it's just because he's he has that desire, the infidelity or whatever problems he's having with his fiance. And I think it was just a metaphor, and that's how it kind of ropes back into some of the other things that they were trying to touch on. And that's why it just falls flat.
I agree.
Yeah.
I do really like, though, the sort of kind of on the nose, but I like it with this movie specifically because this movie is very in your face about it. The criticism of that Hollywood culture with like movie studios, and they even talk about the WGA in it quite a bit.
It was funny, right?
Which is very topical, like not even joking.
Well,
very timely.
That's what I'm glad you brought them back up, because I thought it was funny too. I was like, wow, they're trying to sign some of the WGA members, or they're getting rid of them, or they're trying to, I can't remember what they were.
They were trying to acquire talent without them going to the WGA because they know that as soon as they do, they're going to have more rights than what they as a studio can offer.
Right.
Because they're always talking about like how disappointed they are. Like, oh, fuck, this guy went to the WGA. Are you kidding me? Like, they just can't catch a break against the WGA union. And it's so funny to me. And it's perfect timing, too, I will say. But just that whole like criticism of that Hollywood system through the eyes of this character who is constantly on the brink and just can't really take being fake anymore. Yep. I think is really well done. It's one of my favorite parts.
So he did the research. From a little bit of the trivia I read that, and they didn't name lines, but he used lines for his character in this film from what he recorded or engaged with while he was doing research with other these agents. So he would go and be around these agents, and they would say these lines that he wrote down and used in the film.
Yeah, I don't doubt that it's inspired by like real life encounters that he's had.
Yeah,
with these types of people.
Who is his assistant?
Jacqueline.
Jacqueline, dude. Him and Jacqueline's just
That was such good stuff. That was really good dynamic.
He's trying to sign Raymond or whatever. Or no, he calls the chick. He's like, I thought I saw you on the streets. That's not you. You weren't back in LA. She's like, nope, wasn't me. And he goes, are you sure? I could have swore I saw you. You just had twins. She goes, no, Jordan, I wasn't in Los Angeles. And he goes, oh, okay. Silly me, you're probably thinking this is a call of the weird guy that's trying to catch up. And,
You're probably thinking to yourself, oh, now I'm getting a call from a weird guy I went to high school with who I haven't talked to in 10 years, and now it's such a weird situation.
Yeah. And she's like, well, yep, we're all rooting for you. He goes, well, thanks, bye. And then he sits down and throws his phone out the window, and he goes, and then Jacqueline's head just pops up.
Jacqueline, I'm glad you're here.
I'm going to pay for that. Don't worry, I'll pay for that.
Don't worry, I'm going to pay for that. Hey, what are we doing on Saturday?
Dude, he is, yeah.
Clean line deliveries all around. That's why I wanted to watch this again. I wanted to retain more of them because there's so many.
I really think I could, this might turn, these are why I'm happy I talk about these films. Jasmine, you watched it with Megan. Like, Jasmine passed out, and there was like, I was kind of like, oh, like, now I don't have to have these even though she's going to listen to this and we'll have these conversations. But, it's like, it's kind of like weird if you're watching this with a significant other, just with the subject matter going on. And it's like, okay, don't want to dance around that or have awkward laughs. So she passed out and I was laughing by myself really hardy. But like that, the movie just kind of, the editing was taking me out a little bit and it falls flat. I'm like, Jim Cummings is a tour de force in this, man.
Yeah, man.
Like, he is so funny. And like, I really want to watch it again just to remember some of his lines. Like,
Megan and I both agree, I think, that our favorite part of the movie is him and him just carrying this whole thing. And we were just having such a good time laughing at how ridiculous he was.
Oh, dude, he goes, well, I'm not fucking leaving until I talk to Lewis.
Yeah.
And then the lady comes out and she's like, who's looking for Lewis? He goes, and then the guy's like, he's mistaken. He's lost his dog. He came over here asking if we had seen it. I don't think we've seen it, sir. And he goes, yeah, no, it was a Cocker, a Dalmatian. Nope, gets lost all the time. I'll be, as he's trying to, and then he hops in his car and he looks back and the guy goes, fuck, speeds out.
Yeah.
Like,
so many ridiculous moments that I've kind of forgotten about, and I want to go back and revisit.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Dude, the shit with Jacqueline when he first asked her how she's doing and what he can do to help her, and then that slow transition of when she goes, your wife must have sat on your face this morning. He goes, what was that? He goes, you must have woke up on the wrong side of right side of the bed this morning or whatever it was, and he's like, yeah, no, what did, well...
Did you, hey, remember what you just said about waking up on the right side of the bed this morning?
Yeah, right side of the bed.
What did you say before that?
Yeah. This is kind of... Oh, my God.
Really fucking great.
Yes.
I'm glad you recommended this. Was there anything more we want to talk about with the beta test?
No, I think we got it. And there's a couple... I mean, I think you could probably smash this one down a little bit more, but I had such a great time watching it. I don't want to do that, and I want to live in the good moments that I had with it.
Me too. I'm in the same boat as you. I think you and I have a lot of the same thoughts when it comes to this movie overall. What would you rate it?
Okay, so I originally started out with a 7 out of 10. Shot it down to a 6 out of 10 when I started thinking about it a little bit more and I was reading some of the reviews on it. But now having talked about it and me realizing how much I really did like Jim Cummings in this. I thought he was fantastic. Well shot. It's a great dialogue. So I'm going back to a 7 out of 10. It does fall flat. The ending's going to be a little disappointing for a lot of people, I think. And if it was a little bit better wrapped up or not as heady with what he was trying to go with, I think this could be an 8 out of 10. I mean, really just simply off him alone. So I'm going 7.
Yeah, we didn't even really mention how tight this movie is, too, because it's only 95 minutes or something like that. Very quick, easy watch. If you have Hulu, because I think it's on there.
Yes, that's where I watched it on.
Yeah, me too. Definitely check it out if you get the chance. It's worth watching, I would say. Yeah, no, I'm the exact same boat, 7 out of 10.
Nice.
Really love the performance. I really like the way it's shot despite the small budget. And so much of the acting, especially from Jim Cummings, is really fucking great. Some editing kerfuffles and some scene logistics stuff that we were talking about. But yeah, this is one I could see myself revisiting and maybe even possibly bumping up if I ever watch it again. If I ever watch it again, I'm gonna watch it again.
There you go.
Yeah,
it's probably gonna get bumped too.
Yeah, well, we'll see where it goes.
Now, I don't know. I think it'd be hard to. I mean, unless you watch it again and you're laughing at more of those scenes, like I think that's the only way I could. If I were to bump it up, like I'd have to go back and watch it and be like, oh, I laughed just as hard this time as I did the first time.
Yeah, we'll have to see. It depends on who I watch it with too, because sometimes if you watch it with a new set of people and then they find it really funny, you can get a sort of vicarious enjoyment through them watching it for the first time.
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
But speaking of envelopes, an envelope usually contains sometimes an invitation to a wedding. Kirsten Dunst is getting married in Melancholia.
Yes.
So this was my film recommendation from last episode. I wanted to talk about a Lars von Trier movie. And this is one that's kind of been on my radar for a while, probably like a few years now, that I've always been interested in seeing because Kirsten Dunst sort of coming off of doing the Spider-Man trilogy. You know, this is only like 3 years after Spider-Man 3, or 4 years.
Yeah.
And Lars von Trier is a very interesting director to me. He's got some noteworthy things. So I guess I can summate this. So this is a 2011 film, stars Kirsten Dunst, Charlotte Gainsbourg, Kiefer Sutherland, Alexander Skarsgård, and shout out to my boy from Funny Games, Brady Corbett. And is about, it follows two women, two sisters. One of them played by Kirsten Dunst, who is in the process of getting married to Michael, played by Alexander Skarsgård. And her sort of trying to do her best to get through the wedding reception without letting her depression get the best of her, while also trying to deal with other people telling her how she should feel. And then the other sister, Charlotte Gainsbourg, is dealing with the anxiety of the thought that a planet called Melancholia is on its course to pass by Earth really, really closely. So, very interesting concept, very unique concept. I recommended this because I thought it would garner some discussion. I really didn't know much about it before going into it. And yeah, there's some things to take away. So, Mac, this being your second Lars von Trier movie?
I think this is my first. I was going through his stuff, and I was like, I haven't seen any of it. Him and Gaspar Noé. Mm-hmm. I think that I get, like I said, I get them confused sometimes, and their films mixed up. So I was going through his thing, and I was like, wow, I haven't seen any. That's the first one. So, and I know of his films, though. I guess this is one of his. This is a depression series for him.
Yeah, this is the second film in the unofficial depression trilogy. The first being Antichrist, this being the second, and then the third being Nymphomaniac.
Volume 1 and 2.
Volume 1 and 2. Technically 4 movies, I guess. In this series
in the trilogy.
In the trilogy, yeah. Yeah, no. What did you think of this top level?
You know, this kind of reminded me a little bit of the Neon Demon.
Oh yeah.
You know, I thought I had a little bit more. I don't know. I want to say takeaway, but then I don't. It's kind of like one of those things where I thought it was a little. It feels a little heavy-handed. I don't know if that's the right word or not. With the planet being named Melancholia and kind of like what's going on.
Sure.
I hit the depression angle. I always find it really hard to put that in films and make you care about the characters and what's going on. Mm-hmm. Especially, you really have to buy in with Kirsten Dunst, and I think it's a great thing that they make it her wedding night as they're trying to.
It's supposed to be the happiest day of her life.
Yes, and she just can't get into it, so you're really supposed to feel. And I never really got like too involved with the characters, but I thought this thing is really well shot. I like the score. I really
the score was amazing,
right?
I really love the music.
I mean, very
very kind of like sort of like those, I don't want to say like those like 30s and 40s like silent films where it's like the orchestra maybe.
Right, but that's what you get the feel of.
But that definitely reminded me of that era of
strings
movies.
And I think it was like all strings and maybe, I don't know.
It's like you were at sort of like a ballet recital or something.
Yes.
Where you're supposed to be watching this really elegant thing.
Yeah, I was about to say very regal, like elegant, eloquent, like.
And I think it matches really well with the sort of setting of the film where it's supposed to be this really upper class, very aesthetically pleasing, high class movie where like the set is this really rich environment and it's very pretty to look at.
So it fits really well. And then you got all these actors that are just being droopy the whole time, and it's like, all right, like, you know, it's kind of keeping you involved. That there's only so much eye candy that you can watch before you kind of. But I don't think I ever really fell out, and I'm almost upset that at the beginning of this film was a very fun illustration of events to come. Through some of the dialogue that had been said and some of the events that take place. I kind of wish they didn't have that. I would have been way more intrigued with what was going on with Melancholia had I not known what the outcome was going to be. And I don't know if that was... It's probably intentional.
Like the beginning montage of the movie?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm with you. I do love how it looks visually, accompanied with the music, and it's shot really fucking great. Like, I don't even know if I can find a proper adjective to describe it, but... It is one of those things
really
where like
fucking great works.
I know, we're very taciturn here at the Neon Crew podcast. I had to pull that word out to make up for it.
Yeah.
But you are right in that it does take away a lot of the tension that you get later in the film.
So would you say that was done purposefully as a sort of, I mean, and I think this is somewhat of existentialism involved with this, right? Kind of dealing with depression, but also looking at one's purpose.
I think, and this is kind of my theory of it.
Okay.
It perhaps was trying to put you in the shoes of Kirsten Dunst, who at the beginning of the film, you kind of think, okay, she's just depressed because that's how she is. Like,
right.
She's dealing with this. The real main struggle of her storyline is trying to get through the wedding day because she has these feelings that she can't just shake.
Yep.
And later in the movie, you realize that she just knows things. And she knows that...
See, you got to buy into that one.
She knows that the earth is going to be destroyed by Melancholia. And that's why she is in this heavily depressive state. Almost sort of like an existence of acceptance. Where she just kind of accepted her and everybody else's fate. So why even bother? And... maybe that's what it was supposed to be, like kind of putting us in that place of like, oh, we know what's going to happen and she knows what's going to happen.
Right.
So maybe we can understand her better.
I thought it was kind of like...
But this is only after thinking about it after the movie's done. I didn't pick it up like in the moment.
No, and I'm like in the moment she goes, I know things. I know that the jelly bean count was at blah 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 blah. And I just sat there and I was like, you gotta buy into this character and from everything that she's given us, she's unreliable. She's manic, right? None of her actions have ever supported her knowing that. And the fact that she comes out and says that, I'm like, she could have just read it on the ticker, you know? So like, if you got to buy into that. And I don't know if I do or don't, you know, actually I should say I don't. But I thought a little bit more of it was dealing with death is inevitable. We all know that our existence will come to an end. And the viewpoint was to show it and say, you know that this is going to happen. So any sort of hope that you have that Melancholia will not hit us is futile. You know, like you should have that acceptance of what's going on. So I think it was like, you know, when Kiefer comes in and says, see, I told you, look, it's going away. You know, that was like that. Oh wow, like there is a chance that this isn't gonna hit, you know, and it's that hope and that we rely on when in all reality it's going to hit. We showed you that this will end Earth, and I think they're trying to play into that a little bit.
Yeah.
So that was my take from the beginning, which I was like, I guess it is kind of almost like you know, sadistic. like to do that, you know, to say like, hey, we're gonna give you kind of like a little bit of a maybe not sadistic, but you know, like we're gonna give you some hope here that this movie
it's a
won't.
sense of false hope.
Yeah, and it plays into some of that, like, and what Kirsten Dunst was feeling though. So I really do like what you said though, because I mean, if she ultimately knows the outcome of what's going to happen, the whole from her wedding night on or whenever she learned it, you know, would be like, yeah, it doesn't mean nothing matters.
I do like the idea that Melancholia as the planet is, you know, sort of the literal embodiment of the inevitability of death.
Yeah.
And how the framing of this movie is kind of pitting these characters against each other, but they ultimately know that the same thing is going to happen. Like they have the same idea of what's going to go on. It's just one is a little bit more honest about it. So you have Kirsten Dunst, who is the character that's supposed to represent like the acceptance of it, like why, almost the acceptance of it, but also like,
isn't she like nihilistic in a sense?
Nihilistic and sort of going about it in a very unhealthy way to where like nothing matters anymore. Like not
Right.
even Michael, not even her wedding day, not even anybody else in her life that she cares about or cares about her. So why even bother going on if I'm going to die someday? Like if this is all for nothing. And then you've got Charlotte Gainsbourg, who is the embodiment of anxiety, where she knows deep down that it's coming. She's got a terrible feeling about it the entire time, but she does anything she can to fight against it. And there's that lack of honesty there with not only herself but the people around her, but at the same time she is doing what she can to sort of make the best of things, like especially for her son and for Kirsten Dunst's character to a certain extent, when she gives her baths and like tries to take her on horse riding, and does all these things to like care for her, when Kirsten Dunst doesn't even care about herself anymore because of the inevitability of it. And I do like it as sort of like a literal metaphor for the impending doom that they face. And I get where Lars von Trier was writing this from, because I guess he wrote this along with the other films that we mentioned before. While he was having a very heavily depressive episode, he was like actually hospitalized for it. So I'm definitely recognizing where he sort of pulled these from and the deepest depths of his struggles there.
Yes, and recognizing some of those personalities that he's got down there and who's gravitating towards what.
Yeah, like both of these characters obviously felt like an extension of him and his own thoughts.
Right.
And I can
Some
definitely
days
see
you'll
where he's
have-
writing from.
Yeah. Some days you'll be the Kirsten Dunst. Some days you'll be the Justines, you know, or
because depression and anxiety oftentimes go hand in hand.
right.
Like a lot of the time people just deal with both of those. So
Yes.
it's one of those things where like the pairing of those is definitely something that Lars von Trier is probably pulling from personal experience.
Yeah, I think that's why I say like a little heavy, like the planet's name Melancholia, and I also took it as somewhat of a metaphor for just when you think it's gone by, it comes back, and it comes back in a much worse way.
Yeah.
And that's where I thought the flyby with the stuff of us being on the planet, you know, and it's just kind of, it's always there. It's always just floating around. And then you think, all right, it's about to hit. And then, all right, I'm not depressed. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, here it comes.
Yeah.
And I thought that's why I was like, that's where it felt a little heavy handed with the metaphor. But like, well done though. I mean, like,
overall, it's a very well-made movie. I personally didn't have too much of an issue with getting attached to what was going on, especially in the first half of the story with the wedding.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That just, okay.
What's up?
Film recommendations. I just remember what I was gonna recommend. There's two of them. So, and I gotta see. Yeah. Wedding scenes are awesome. Weddings are awesome in movies.
Is that a hint of what's to come?
It will be,
All right.
possibly. It depends on where you go. I got two options, and I don't know if I should have you choose the red pill or the blue pill, or if I just present them and you pick.
Well, That's up to you when we get to that point.
We'll get there. We got the wedding.
We got the wedding to be a part of. We got to partake in cake that's been sitting there for 2 hours. And we got to get there in a limo that's trying to go up a winding, narrow road.
And there's some laughter. It's your wedding day. You're creating memories.
Yeah. There's like a lot of little things about that story specifically that I really like. And I do think it's because it's framed in a wedding setting. And it's got all these different people, these moving parts, and like these relationships that these characters have with each other that you're sort of just kind of diving into the middle of. And I like watching those dynamics play out. And you can clearly tell what types of characters they're supposed to be without the movie explicitly telling you who they are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of the mother character specifically and just how overbearing she is, and like how almost to a similar degree that Kirsten Dunst ends up in Charlotte Gainsbourg's story, where she's very much of the same attitude, like, oh, what does it matter? Like, I don't believe in marriage. Like,
yes.
Very much like laissez-faire about everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool way to kind of predict where that character ends up, but also just a good indication of her relationship with her mother and her relationship with Michael and how she feels about everything. And you can tell that there's a certain point in the film where she wants to feel good and she wants to be happy and that she's actually trying, but everybody around her just keeps wanting her happiness to be at the expense of everything going on. So like, we want you to be happy, but we only want you to be happy because we don't want you to ruin this entire day for everybody.
Right.
Not necessarily we want you to be happy because we care about you.
Because this is your day and you need to be celebrated. We have all these people here.
Yeah. How could you be selfish? We're celebrating you and we're celebrating your happy day.
Yes.
And I think that
it's a good paradox.
It's a good paradox, and it's a good way to frame the depression that she's going through. And I think it's probably one of the better ways that I've seen a movie sort of tackle those feelings, because I've met people like that, and like anytime that you try your best to sort of make their day better or make them happy, like really there's not much you can do. You kind of just have to let them go through it, and then
just know that you're able to support them in what they need, and that you want to see them, and that you care. It's their well-being. It's not necessarily because I want to hang out and I want to watch this movie with someone, so get off your ass and come and be happy with me. It's hey man, whatever you need, take your time. I'm here to support you, and I got your back. You know, I think and you didn't really, in that film, the only person really presented that was her sister, and at least during the wedding.
Yeah, like her sister's really the only one that truly kind of gets her and understands, but to a certain extent sort of doesn't really let it fly, you know? Like she understands what she's going through, but also at the same time understands like who she is as a person more. Yeah. So trying to get into like the mind of that character is like really the only thing that she can do, essentially. Because like we said, everybody else is trying to tell her how to feel on her own day when she just can't help it. Yep.
So. It's funny too, because Kiefer Sutherland, this wedding cost me an arm and a leg. Do we have a deal now? Mm-hmm. Well, what's that? What deal do we have? That this will make you happy. You're gonna have a happy day today. Mm-hmm. You know,
I love the different multiple angles that these characters go about it. So Kiefer Sutherland goes about it in a very aggressive way. Like, you need to be happy.
I paid for your happiness.
I paid for your happiness. Alexander Skarsgård goes about it in an attempted loving way, but also kind of like a little bit selfish reasons. Like, I want to fuck you right now. Yes. Sort of thing. And then, of course, Stellan Skarsgård, shout out to him in this movie, by the way. Yeah. He goes about it in this is for the benefit of your job and your work, and I'm giving you this promotion, so you need to be happy because it's your wedding and because I promoted you. Like, that'll make me look good too. Right. And, when she kind of goes against everything that these people are trying to impose upon her, they get pissed off and they end up leaving her. And then it sort of becomes a spiral to the point where she can't even get into a bathtub by herself later in the film. Yeah. So there's a lot going on with like the characters and the themes, and I really enjoyed that first story. And not that I didn't enjoy the second half of the movie, but I don't know. To me, there was something about like the richness of the environment of the first.
There was a lot more
that really
going
grabbed
on.
me. Yeah,
I think, like it's the first half of the film. It gets into a little bit of the, I don't want to say character building, but there's like you said, there's different relationships, there's different people that with dialogue, and there's different angles on how are we going to make Kirsten Dunst happy, and it's all set in a very elegant, rich, setting of this wedding in this Scottish home, it looks like, and the lighting in this film is so well done, and you don't know what time it is because you're living in the twilight hours, and everything is very dimly lit, but just enough for you to see people smiling. And weddings are always fun, and that's why it's just so much moving around, and we're learning so much about Kirsten Dunst at this time, and like, well, how can you be upset, and trying to get into her character, and like, well, what the hell's going on with her, and then the second one hits, and that's, I guess that's, so the first one's simply depression, then the second story would be anxiety, and the anxiety of melancholia crashing into the world. And I think it's just because you already kind of knew where this was gonna go. You might not have cared anymore at that point, or you're just kind of waiting, And Kirsten Dunst is a shell of herself, and I read somewhere that Lars von Trier, one of the Bible verses, Corinthians like 3:16 or something, I don't know what it was, but there's a Bible verse that God said that the world is filled with evil, and that he will take another planet to destroy the world and cleanse it of its evilness.
Yeah, there's that line that Kirsten Dunst has where life is evil. Yeah,
it's pretty much quoting whatever Bible verse that is, and I think it loses you just a little bit as you teeter on these lines of what are we actually going for and talking about. And that anxiety too, like if you think about it, depression, everyone can kind of relate, and you can kind of see someone being bad. Anxiety is a really hard one to have someone understand. Like Beau Is Afraid, I did the best job of visually explaining anxiety. This one, it's hard to feel anxious with what's going on, especially the outcome. So it kind of, that's why I thought, I just wish they hadn't shown me that. I would have totally related with, what's her name?
Charlotte Gainsbourg.
She Justine, or was Kirsten
Claire?
Claire.
Yeah.
I probably would have related a lot more with Claire than what was going on, but because the outcome, very hard to sympathize.
Well, it's such an interesting choice to show that stuff because, like I said, it's possibly because Lars von Trier wanted you to relate more to Kirsten Dunst's character. Maybe there was a bit more of a preference with one storyline versus the other, and I feel like maybe that was definitely the case with this movie, because to me it sort of drags a little bit once you get into that Charlotte Gainsbourg storyline.
Hell yeah.
And it doesn't really pick back up until all the stuff happens at the end with Kiefer Sutherland committing suicide and letting the horse go, and like Charlotte Gainsbourg trying to escape in all these trucks, and like none of them are starting, ending up on the golf cart, and then like kind of just circling back to where she was at the beginning, trying her best to learn how to accept it. But even until like the very end of the movie, you see that she doesn't really do that anyway, because like even as the planet is crashing into Earth, you can still see her silhouette just kind of like trying to like fight against it and brace herself for it. Whereas like Kirsten Dunst is like perfectly still.
Yeah.
And that is a good representation, but it does take so long to get there once her storyline starts. And if it had been paced the same way as the first half of the movie, then I probably would have liked it more. But
if there were more characters involved in that second half, that maybe could have kept that theme going. I don't know how easy that would have been.
Right. Because the first half does such a good job of like bouncing between characters and going back and forth between all these different perspectives and how they relate to each other.
Yeah.
In that second half, you literally just get those three characters pretty much. Mostly just those two. Because like the only Kiefer Sutherland perspective you get is through the eyes of one of the other characters. But yeah, like I agree with you 100%. Like if if it had more of those dynamics going on, it would have been a lot more interesting.
There could have been. They definitely could have either that or trimmed the fucking second half of the
Right.
Claire story. Like, yeah. I'm just kind of running through my head. There was a lot of dull moments that I just felt maybe he thought was pragmatic when really they served like no purpose in the film. I don't know.
Well, I think what he wanted to do was to convey the monotony of dealing with depression, but it just felt needlessly long too.
Yeah,
like those scenes where Kirsten Dunst's trying to get into the bathtub, or like when they're trying to get her down to dinner, they go on for way too long, and they could have gotten that same point across in a less amount of time.
That's what I'm like. Yes, that's what I'm. I agree.
Yeah,
I agree. I thought that there was a lot of needlessly, like you said, needlessly long, needlessly elaborate, whatever you want to call it, that just served little to no purpose except keeping the vibe of the film enriched in your soul, or which is hollow and empty. So, but it's funny because I never got like a bad feeling watching it.
Yeah, this, from what I gather, is one of his lighter films.
Yes.
Which is interesting to say because, the fucking world ends. But in terms of, like, actual content, this is pretty tame compared to Antichrist, compared to The House That Jack Built.
Yep.
Like,
now, that's the one you've
Nymphomaniac.
seen, right? The House That Jack Built?
Yeah, I've seen that one. Definitely not as light as this. It's about a serial killer.
Yep.
And Lars von Trier does not shy away from showing you the sort of darkness that you can be witness to when it comes to that sort of thing. So yeah, this movie, in comparison to like everything else I know about him, is very tame.
Yes, that's what I was kind of curious about going into it. I was like, I don't know exactly what I'm walking into, and yeah.
What did you think of I know you kind of alluded to it earlier that you liked the way it was filmed and
Oh yeah,
the cinematography. I do too.
the first 9 minutes is like stunning with the music going on, and I don't know if they're just
with the
illustrations or
if it was like really, really high frame rate cameras
that's
that they
what
were
I was
using.
thinking.
Because they're so realistic looking, and I'm almost wondering if that just wasn't the case. Like if
That's what,
because
yeah.
it almost looks like a moving painting the way that they're framed.
My favorite one was Kirsten Dunst floating down the river, and I was trying to look at the water to say, all right, maybe that's the way that they're moving the image is, making it look. And I think I saw like water kind of like trickling up her arm, and some of the stuff I read, I thought I read there were illustrations, and then I hadn't looked into it, and maybe I should have just out of curiosity, because I'm like that would have to be like, super high frame rates, right? To get those images per second.
If you want that slow of an image, you got to have a really high tech camera
and
that can capture all those frames.
And that's what I was wondering, if that also increases the quality of the image, and maybe why they look so like 3D drawn.
Yeah, they almost look like they're illustrated.
Right? That's what I didn't know, and I really thought it was stunning, and it's a very like, oh man, and just take out the melancholia part. They didn't need to show the worlds. Like if you took that out, like just those two images, the one where it's passing by and then the next one of when it's like striking it, you would have no idea. And I bet you that would have made. I was getting a little anxious with what was going on, because I was like, I don't know if we're going to end this on a different note or not.
Yeah.
It's just a little bit. Imagine you have no idea.
There was like a room for doubt there.
Yeah.
Maybe a little tiny bit.
God, that would have been so evil to do to people.
I was reading a few reviews about this after I watched it, and some people were kind of dogging on the way it was filmed, just because they were like, it kind of looks like The Office the way it's filmed sometimes, with like the sort of handheld camera that is throughout the whole entire thing, basically. But I didn't mind that. I thought it did a good job of sort of like grounding you in the situation and kind of putting you amongst those characters, especially with that wedding storyline.
It makes it so much more intimate with what's going on.
Like, to me, it kind of felt like it was doing a good job of putting you in the crowd, and like you're almost the one kind of having to like pass by people really closely.
Yeah. And that uncomfortable, just being uncomfortable with all these people that are just laughing and dancing around you. And I mean, if you're kind of the stranger in this whole scene, right? Moving around with the camera. Imagine feeling like, imagine you're Kirsten Dunst, and that's how like you're just like, whoa, hey, all right, you're. Yeah, this isn't like I'm not like everyone, and then everyone's just smiling and laughing and dancing, and it's just like I don't know any of these people, you know. I don't feel really all that great being out here. I just need to get some air. Yeah, I really like the wedding stuff, and that's why we might lean into my next film recommendation just because of it. The wedding stuff was fantastic, and the lighting is superb in this thing. Like, how do you not like the lighting in the first?
Such a really good job of making you feel like you're watching something relatable, but also something that feels a little off, right? Like, there's a weird amount of tension in the way that it's filmed, I think. And it kind of, like, I think it's more so to do with the editing, too. Like, sometimes it does these cuts, even though it's lingering on the same shot, and it makes you feel a little on edge with what's going on. Like, oh, shit.
True.
Like,
yes.
The house that Jack built is filmed very much the same style.
Oh, really? Where it's kind of lingers, and then you're on to the next scene? And
yeah. Like, it's very, very much like
jolting.
A snap like that.
Yeah.
And I think there's a little bit of that in this movie, too.
A little bit. I think that the way it was, I agree. I don't want to add on to it because I think you nailed it. That's spot on. And the editing of the wedding stuff was that wedding scene, Act 1, I think is what was it, Justine's act or Chapter 1?
Part 1.
Part 1.
Yeah.
Part 1. Part 1 was fantastic. I'm not lying, dude. I mean, as soon as it opens up with the trees and it's looking over the golf course and there's just the off-centered person in the backyard. Mm-hmm. And you just get to see those trees, those magnificent looking trees with the shadows going on and the sundial, and they hit a couple of these things up to the limousine, and then it's kind of shaky on the limousine, and then you're in the limousine with them, and now you're at the wedding, and Kiefer Sutherland pops out, and he's such a gentleman, and and then you're in the wedding, and yeah, I really can't get over the lighting and I do agree. The way that it's kind of filmed, it's a little bit of an out-of-body experience as you're kind of going along with these characters that you don't know, and it does give you a sense of how Kirsten Dunst feels. And some of that, it makes you, because she seems almost manic, that you don't know what she's capable of doing. Mm-hmm. And she could just have an episode that your boy got lucky enough to visit, and, have that go
on. I really like Kiefer Sutherland in this movie. I think that his performance, like, it made me not really feel like I was looking at Kiefer Sutherland after a bit. He was just this. Oh yeah. He's just this kind of like abrupt asshole, but he was also like really into astronomy and stuff like that. Like just being a scientist, like very no bullshit kind of asshole character.
Yeah,
and I really liked him in this film.
Transparent. Maybe he was really transparent, and whether he was a dick or not, he let you know, and that was who he was. Mm-hmm. He was genuine. If anything, he was genuine.
Yeah,
and he might have been a rich uppity, and
he's very crass.
Yeah, and knows the way the world works, and knows things and figures things out. I liked him a lot. I just liked the way that he delivered stuff. I thought his character held true to how he would always present himself. And, the only time he ever gets upset is he kicks the mom out, grabs her shit, and throws it out. And then he, like, kind of does the thing with his, jacket. And then little father comes in and grabs it and brings it back in there. Mm-hmm. We were watching it, and Jasmine just woke up, and she's kind of seeing like what's going on. She wasn't asking questions; she was just like look over, and so Kiefer Sutherland does this thing with, well, simply, my dear, there's a margin of error, and we just didn't know with the margin of error that there would be a flyby, and you have to calculate for that, and and because he goes, we made it, and here's a toast to life. And she goes, you asshole, you freaking made it sound like we were good. And then, so he does this whole thing, and then the next day, remember, he starts doing the calculations again. And he goes, no. And then that was it. And so Jasmine was like, he didn't say anything, but Jasmine was watching, and she just looks over at me. She's like, what happened to him? And I just looked at her very sternly, and I was like, margin of error.
Yeah.
But then it comes back in, but I really liked this character. That's what I'm saying.
He played it well.
Yeah. And I don't know if fun's the right word. He was an asshole, but like anytime that he talked, he was the one that I trusted the most of telling me what was going to happen.
He had a good screen presence, and I liked the cheeky moment it's like the first scene where they go into the horse stall, and she's in the wedding dress, and they're kind of looking at the horse, and she says, or I think Alexander Skarsgård says something like, hey, she's the only one that I get to ride now, huh, or whatever, and he's like, well, that's not true.
Yeah.
And then Charlotte Gainsbourg hits him, and he's like, what? Sometimes I go out and give her a ride. I thought that was kind of a little cheeky moment.
That's what I'm saying. Dude, he's just a very witty scientist.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of money. Buku money. Because they had an 18-hole golf course that he referenced
Which is
several
funny,
times.
because did you notice the 19th hole?
I didn't. I had to read it in the trivia. I think there was like 2 moments in this movie where I was texting. Yeah, I got on my phone, and one of them happened to be it was Claire that was going back with her son, and they walked by the 19th hole.
Mm-hmm.
I missed it. Like I kind of was like, all right, writing's on the wall. I know what's gonna happen, So I was like, I was sending out some texts, and so I didn't see it, and then all of a sudden I read about it. And
do you think that was the movie kind of supposed to hinting at us that he was an unreliable character?
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Because, like, if he keeps saying, like, oh, how many holes do we have? 18. That's right. And, like, there's a few shots in the movie where there's the 19th hole. And I wonder if it's supposed to be an indication that we're not supposed to trust what he says.
Did you read up on it at all?
No.
Okay. Someone said that
either I'm theorizing.
Someone made a postulate that it was, that, or I don't know if it was this person or Laws were unsure, but someone said limbo. It was supposed to be a representation of limbo, that we were in limbo. Mm-hmm. And that's what depression feels like, I'm assuming, is that you're just in this world of unknowns, and feeling no purpose, whether here or there, and we're stuck, so.
Yeah. Before we wrap this up, I do want to point this out because I think it's just funny. This is the movie that Lars von Trier was at a panel for in Cannes Film Festival, where someone asked him a question and he basically was joking that he was a Nazi, but then he just kept saying that he was a Nazi. Like, oh yeah, I sympathize with Hitler.
Yeah. What the fuck? Like, he got booted out of Cannes.
Yeah, he was banned from the festival.
Yeah.
I don't remember if it was a permanent ban or if it was just like a 5-year you can't come back here sort of thing.
He was like the first person to receive whatever they called that thing.
I just remember in the video when he's saying it, Kirsten Dunst is sitting next to him looking very uncomfortable.
Yeah, and well, what do you expect, Kirsten? Have you seen some of his other films?
Yeah. He's a good filmmaker, but man, he's a wacky dude.
Yeah, you think?
I'm pretty sure he also told Nicholas Winding Refn's wife to divorce him or some shit.
Oh man, that would be an interesting. I'd like to get those two together on a film set
and have them fight.
No, that also would be interesting. Both of you don't like life. Here you go. Like, do what the Joker did in The Dark Knight. Here's a pool stick.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, like, to see what they'd come up with together. Like, let's mix the Neon Demon with Melancholia.
Let's see where this all heads.
Yeah.
Was there anything else we wanted to say about Melancholia?
No, I don't. No, like I said, I mean, to me, it was a short. I do like the conversations that we had, and you've really helped me out, and I really appreciate Justine's part one a lot more. I haven't talked about it, and I just kind of didn't think about the whole perspective angle. Mm-hmm. So yeah, and I liked Melancholia too. I thought it was really nice looking. Yeah,
just the effects too, which we didn't really talk about. Very simple, but very effectively done.
Yeah, easy, right?
Easy peasy.
Mm-hmm. And it really, I mean, it had a clean look. I mean, you're not, it definitely didn't look like it was just a CGI blob up there. You know, like it had a very real look to it. So it added some of the effect of, oh shit, you know, here we are looking at this thing.
It's funny because, and I don't know if I did this on a subconscious level, but before I recommended this film, I was scrolling through Reddit like the previous day, and the subreddit r/megalophobia came up, and it was a post about the ending of Melancholia. And I knew like the premise of it, so I already knew that it was about like a planet like coming close to Earth.
Yes, yeah.
But it started playing a scene from the movie, and I said, oh shit, I don't want to see this yet. I want to wait until I actually watch the movie. And that may or may not have had an influence on me recommending it. Because
interesting.
Yeah, it's been on my list, but it's one of those where just because I experienced it in that little tiny moment, it was on my mind for a good portion of the day and the next day after. So thank you Reddit for influencing my choice.
Listeners, now you see how it's done and how we come up with our decisions.
It's literally just fucking random. it's however it happens. Yeah, I guess we can go into ratings for this.
All right.
This is an 8 out of 10 for me. Pretty good movie overall. Very solid. Love the first storyline with Justine. And not that I even thought that the Charlotte Gainsbourg story was bad. It's just not as well handled, I think, as the first one.
There's not enough stimulus going on to keep you entertained. And you gotta admit, I mean, knowing the outcome of what's going to happen, it drives a lot less of the tension.
Yeah.
That you're supposed to feel, especially if she represents anxiety, and maybe it focuses more on her and her performance than it would actually how we as audience members are feeling.
Yeah. Very cool imagery we got, but yeah, I agree. If we had taken those shots out, I wonder how much more effective it could have been.
Like, think about just not seeing them collide, but you see Kirsten Dunst in her wedding outfit and running with the wool, and you get Charlotte, you know, she's going through the 19th hole, and like you get all those same images, except you just don't see them collide, so you have no idea if it's going to happen or not. And even after Kiefer Sutherland's suicide, like you'd probably still have hope that thing's not going to hit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it would have provided a lot more of a heart rate going on of, what? You know? Like,
yeah.
Oh, shit. Like
the film kind of letting you down, but it being effective that way.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, 8 out of 10 for me. Really enjoyable movie.
Nice. I had a hard time yesterday when I had it down there. I watched it, and I was like, I immediately put it in one of the ratings, and I said, you know what, I'm going to let this sit a little bit, and then I thought, you know what, I'll know after I talk to you about how I feel about it. So I'm going with the 8 out of 10 as well.
Nice. We're very in sync today.
Yeah. And I think we both have the same thoughts about these films and how we perceived them. I think I'm a little bit more on the upbeat side with some of the production aspects of it, and you helped me out with some of the writing aspects of it to help me kind of understand these characters and a little bit more about what Lars Van Trier was going for, and it makes it a little bit more enjoyable. And like, I don't think this thing is not enjoyable, and it is, like I said, it's depressing. I mean, that not depressing as shit, but it's supposed to be just very droopy.
Yeah.
There's enough going on.
Droopy's a good word for it,
right? Like I'm sure there could be a lot more things that would get you to feel a lot more depressed than what we were seeing. But there's enough going on usually throughout this film to keep you engaged and, you know, keep you kind of guessing and up with the characters and want to know what's next. So
engaged. You thought Alexander Skarsgård.
Oh,
damn.
Now I don't know what happened. I'm like, did he find out that she had sex on the 19th hole?
I think it's implied that he found out that things happened.
Yeah.
And that he's just like, well, cool, I'm out. See ya. And then he just pieces out.
It was such a weird, like, you're just not happy and I don't want to be with you. Like, feeling that I got.
Yeah. Like, if that was the sole reason he left, he gave up very easily.
That's what I was thinking. And I'm like, because she didn't have sex with him.
If he loved her that much,
Well, and it's your wedding day, and like half of it too is what's funny is like it's your wedding day, and all she wants to do is be alone. Mm-hmm. And like you're as the groom, it's like, really? Like what? I thought we were. And then I'm like, well, how fucking well did they know each other?
Right. And like the sort of first instinct that you get, at least like I'm talking about general viewer, that you get is like when she kind of rejects him in that sort of indirect way, you're supposed to kind of feel bad for him, but then you start to think about like what she wants in the moment, and her saying like, oh, sit with me. Like she literally would have been fine if he had just sat there with her, but he insists on like continuing to kiss her and like trying to make something happen.
Yes.
When that's not at all what she was giving off,
Right. No, I don't think I ever felt bad for Skarsgård and what was going on.
I felt a little bad, but
really
a little bit, not as much as my immediate feelings, but yeah, just a small degree.
Okay.
Yeah. Just a tiny bit.
Yeah.
Sad boy. But I feel bad. Like that's the thing, though. I feel bad for a lot of the characters in this to some degree. Like probably not Stellan. Probably not, Brady Corbett.
He got the best of it. I mean, he got paid a salary up to some point.
You could say he got out on top.
Yeah.
Or on bottom.
Definitely came out somewhere on that wedding dress.
Somewhere, someone, somehow.
I also like
hole in one.
I liked it. It gave me a good chuckle, and there's not a whole lot of laughing moments in this besides Kiefer Sutherland's character, but like she essentially tells off Stellan, go fuck yourself. Mm-hmm. And like she's kind of, she's not maybe necessarily sticking up for herself, but she's recognizing some of these emotions and how she's feeling.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Billy Corbett.
Brady Corbett. I think his name is Tim in the movie.
Tim comes up there and he's like, hey, I just heard you say off. I got the business fine, and you're the art director. You got the artsy side. I think we could be a great partnership. Plus, we just had great sex. she like walks by. She's like, no, I don't think that'd be a good idea.
Yeah.
And then like all I'm thinking is like, how do you know that, man? Like, she just took advantage of you and walked out. Like, that is so ballsy, you know?
Character that can read the room the least amount.
Oh, my God. Go follow her around and get the tagline.
Yeah, on her wedding day.
Yeah, you got it, boss.
I'll do anything I can to come out on top.
The best thing is, like, I've paid him a wealthy salary. It's a very wealthy salary. And then, like, they go off on another thing, and he's like, so Tim here, we'll be helping you find the tagline. And he looks at her and he goes, it's a very healthy salary. like totally like, I get paid millions just to get this one thing out of you. So she got something out of him.
That is very true. Speaking of getting something out of people, we got some questions out of people.
Oh,
some nice, good questions. So I will go over these. Thank you guys for giving us some good things to ponder. Our first one comes from Lauren, and she asks, which Hogwarts house do you think your co-host belongs in?
Oh.
What do you think I belong in?
So,
McClain.
I thought about this one.
And it's funny because I actually, a couple years ago, I did the Hogwarts online thing.
Didn't we?
The, find out your class thing. So I know what I am.
Oh, you do know what you are.
Yeah, but I want to hear what you think I am.
So I'm thinking you're a Ravenclaw, because of your ability to plan ahead, your wit and creativity, and your thirst for knowledge.
Okay.
And not only that, but no, that's it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You're wrong.
Whoa.
I'm a Slytherin.
Fuck.
Yeah. I'm the bad guy house.
That's
I
not
guess.
necessarily true.
It's not necessarily true. The way the movies frame them, though,
Yeah,
is very much like that.
Yeah,
It's like the evil house. Oh, guess I'll be hanging out with Draco. But yeah, no, I'm a Slytherin. I think if I remember right, my Patronus is like a weasel. So
what's a Patronus?
it's like when Harry goes expecto patronum and like the deer comes out and like expels the Death Eaters. It's like whatever animal represents you when you use the Patronus spell. So mine's a fucking weasel.
Maybe redo the test, man.
It's been a couple of years.
Yeah.
Maybe I can get sorted into a new house. Is that how that works?
I don't know. I'd just redo the whole thing and see what pops up. If you go back Slytherin and Weasel, like that's it.
Yeah. But no, I appreciate your assumption of me being a Ravenclaw. Probably what I rather would have been, but I can't pick my house, you know?
Yeah, it's true.
The sorting hat has its ways with you or whatever. Just like Kirsten Dunst.
Is that Tim?
Yeah. Just like Kirsten Dunst and Brady Corbett. So do you know what you are, or
no?
You never took a quiz or anything?
No.
I feel
you
like
never took a. Yep. Nope. Never got that nerdy into it. Never once went like, you know what? Now I'm like genuinely curious because that Patronum thing. I'm like, oh, I wonder what the fuck I like.
You probably get something cool like a lion or something.
I'd probably get like an otter.
I would rather have an otter than a weasel.
Weasel's not the. I mean, did it have like a cool like these are what they do? Or
it was literally just a ghostly looking weasel. That was it.
Man, that's a tough one.
Yeah. I think you're a Gryffindor.
Really?
I feel like you are. You've got like House Gryffindor energy.
All right.
Because Gryffindors are known for their nerve, chivalry, daring, courage, bravery, and determination. I feel like you embodying that sort of, I don't want to say macho, but like the sort of like sports kind of mindset and upbringing.
Yeah.
I feel like you would do well, especially since, Quidditch being a sport, you'd probably do really well, and House Gryffindor usually kicks ass in those movies. I don't know about the books, but, that's a whole different ball game.
Yes.
To say the least. So, yeah, I think you're a Gryffindor.
Okay, I'll take that. Maybe, so you didn't read, you just took the tests out of amusement?
I took it a few years ago because it was after our friend group had watched all the movies together, and we were curious about what house we were in. So we all took the quiz, and me and Mikey are House Slytherin. I think Gideon is Gryffindor. I think Lauren's Ravenclaw. I don't remember who anybody else was, but
yeah, I might have taken it. I think maybe not.
I feel like I might have sent you a link at some point.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like I got Hufflepuff or Ravenclaw. I don't remember. I don't think I was Gryffindor or Slytherin. I was one of those two.
I feel like if you weren't Gryffindor, you were Hufflepuff, probably.
Hufflepuff?
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
Mm-hmm. Because, I think, what is Hufflepuff? Let me look up the traits of Hufflepuff.
I'll talk to, maybe I'll find Jasmine if she's got a link. Because I want to know what my Patronum animal is. So
Hufflepuff has a strong sense of justice, loyalty, patience, and prosperity for hard work.
Yeah. I'm probably a Hufflepuff.
I feel like you could give off Hufflepuff energy.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah. Cool. I think that answers that question pretty nicely.
Does. Yes. Thank you, Lauren.
Yeah. Shout out to Harry Potter.
Both of us figuring out what dorms we're in that we don't want to be in.
Yeah. What the sorting hat chooses for us.
Yeah.
Not Slytherin. Not Slytherin. Yeah. When he shouts it out.
Yeah.
How embarrassing for Harry Potter. Oh. Our next question comes from Levi, special guest Levi.
Hell yeah.
He asks, favorite character with a mustache? This is a great question. And I have one if you want time to think. I have two.
Really?
And they're both the same actor.
Can we do a TV and a movie?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, let's not limit ourselves.
Okay.
Because I looked this up, and I looked it up after I thought of my answers, and there's not a whole lot in the media space, especially with movies.
With just mustaches?
Yeah. Or prominent mustaches.
They don't have to be prominent. They just have to be mustaches.
They have to be mustaches. So my first thought is Daniel Plainview. There'll Be Blood. Killer stash. That's also what I was thinking. Same actor. Yeah. Gangs of New York. Yeah. Daniel Day-Lewis can just pull off a mustache.
Very prominent mustache.
He's got the right face for it, too.
Yeah.
He pulls it off 100%. And 2 different mustache styles.
Yeah.
Because, what is it? Billy the Butcher?
Yep.
Has that, sort of curly stash, a little more like mine. And then Daniel Plainview has more of the push broom. But both look great on him. Man, yes. Great call. Mm-hmm.
So no, for the first one, I'm going Ron Swanson from Parks and Rec.
Ooh. That is a good one.
Love Parks and Rec. Love Ron Swanson's half the reason. Like when that came on, I wanted to have a mustache.
Mm-hmm.
And then the guy I'm gonna go with is Jay Blumenthal from King Richard. Being the look him up.
John Bernthal?
John Bernthal. Yeah.
It took me a second to.
I said Jay. Yeah, I can't ever remember his name.
Were you gonna say Jay Baruchel?
No, John Bernthal from King Richard when he's a tennis coach.
Yeah,
do you remember him?
I know who you're talking about now. The Jay threw me off a bit.
Yeah,
but, that is a good choice.
Man, yeah, that was. I was like first one that pops in your head, you got to say it, and then like his image of. With that mustache out there, I was like, that's him.
John Bernthal just needs to have more facial hair in general.
Yeah.
Like, he could pull it off. He just doesn't a lot of the time.
I'm good with just the mustache.
Another one that I just thought of, Henry Cavill, Mission Impossible Fallout. That is a killer mustache. That is a mustache that has caused part of the downfall of the DCEU. Because in Justice League... He was filming that at the same time as Mission Impossible, and he had a contract that he couldn't shave his mustache, so they had to CG his mustache out.
Really?
Yeah.
The downfall of DCU is a mustache?
Kinda.
Well, you're shitty if that's what it takes.
Look up scenes from the
I can assure you
Joss
I won't.
Whedon version of Justice League where Superman comes in and you can just tell that his upper lip just doesn't look quite right, and that's because they had to CG his face for his mustache.
Listeners, please do this.
Yeah.
And then send it to us.
It looks jank as fuck. I might try to send you a link
or
after
just
this.
do that if you find it.
Yeah.
I'm not giving the DCU any amount of any attention I have anytime ever.
That is a noble endeavor. And I will
as long as it's got what's his nuts doing it.
Practice to do the same. James Gunn?
Yeah.
Let's see how he handles things.
Yeah.
I'm very curious where he goes with it.
I heard The Flash was just a total pile of flaming shit.
It kind of sucks ass.
Yep. And I heard that, and I said, you know what? I have 2.5 hours I could spend doing better things.
I could play with my kid in that time.
Or I could just sit outside and watch grass grow.
Better use of your time, if I say so myself. Unless you want to see Ezra Miller naked.
I told you. I was like, Preston, do you want to watch this? And he was like, no, I'm good. And I was like... That's a sign. That's a sign. I'm not gonna force it. If I go, here's a superhero movie, and he loves the Flash, and he's just like, nah, that's it.
Yeah, good call. Our next question comes from Chris, and this is a very good question. He says, "What movie (parentheses movies) had the most captivating opening sequence that had you hooked?" Recent example, the Beta Test. Had a very intriguing opening sequence.
Yes.
That cold open, that very violent cold open. I know where he's asking this question from because I follow him on Letterboxd, so I see whatever movie he watches. And he posted this question pretty much the day after he watched Children of Men. That's a very good opening scene in that film.
Children of Men opening scene.
It's a bombing.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a very good.
Opening
scene.
Yes.
Kind of like without telling you what's going on, captures the feel of the movie.
Yeah, I don't. I always have a hard time with friggin' cold opens. Like
one that I see people using as an example a lot when this question is thrown around online is Inglourious Bastards. That's another great opening with Christoph Waltz.
Yeah. I mean. I guess it counts. I'm trying to. I don't know. Maybe I'm getting too like specific. Like I want, like give me. It's got to be like the 5 minutes. I guess the beta test one was probably just as long as that one from Inglourious. So.
I feel like the beta test one was probably shorter.
More than likely.
Yeah.
But Chris, that's a great question. I'm having a hard time trying to come up with one off the top of my head that I'm just like, oh man,
Mm-hmm. I like the opening of Drive. The sort of like heist car chase scene.
That would be a good one. I really, if I'm remembering it right, No Country for Old Men.
How does that one open? I forget. It's been so long since I watched it.
And I'm drawing a blank on it, but sorry. So I'm going with No Country for Old Men. Drive is number 2 for me because both of those I saw the trailers for, and for most of the trailer they kind of use the opening sequences. And Drive, I remember they just had that the shot of the driver getting in there. And he goes, "You got 5 minutes." But No Country for Old Men is Tommy Lee Jones doing his dialogue, going through about how times are changing and we can't keep up with the new times. And it eventually goes into the police department where Anton Chigurh is sitting there, and the police officers explaining how he caught him. He goes, and he had this funny device on him, Sheriff, and it looked like one of those cattle prods they used to punch out the cows, and he does the thing and escapes, and then he runs into a guy and needs to take his car, and then it's on.
Yeah.
That
is a good one.
Yeah.
The opening of, and I'm gonna plug my new favorite movie here again, Funny Games.
Oh my God.
Yeah. You're going to get very sick of me using Funny Games as my answer for all these questions.
Yeah, it's a cop-out.
It's a cop-out, but I'm very shameless about it. So that, I think, will answer that question unless we had more openings and movies that we liked.
No, I'm just kind of going through here and looking at my top ones.
Not that it was the most memorable, but Donnie Darko had a pretty good
have not seen
opening.
It.
Interesting.
Yeah, write it on your things.
That would be a good discussion.
Yeah, well, when you decide to...
Uncut Gems, how that opens, do you remember that? It's him getting a
the colonoscopy
procedure. Yeah.
And it's just going with the neon, the total
sort of synth.
Yeah,
it zooms out. It's all these colors, and then it just gets more and more absurd. Yeah, that's a good one. Ooh, Nightcrawler had a very good opening. Very, very eerie. That's when he's in the junkyard and the security guard comes up to him. That one's good.
I see, and I always assume that it's just right into the film,
What about the opposite? Do we have any answers for movies that kind of have a weaker opening but are still great movies?
No, I'm not gonna. It's a great question. I don't know if I could come up with any off the top of my head. I'm struggling just a little bit with this one.
Gotcha.
Because like I said, I don't. Jurassic Park's got a great opening too.
Oh yeah, Shooter.
Hell yeah! I remember being a kid watching that. It's what's going on here?
First time I watched that, I was definitely not a kid, but I know what you mean.
Oh. Kind of, I guess, yeah.
Oh yeah,
a little bit. Maybe we're having the same
mentally. You could argue I was a little immature when it came to my movie watching experience, but
God, yeah,
I was definitely over the age of 21.
It's nice that you only get to watch 6 films until you were 14.
Yeah, it's one of them was Napoleon Dynamite over and over again.
Yeah, not a memorable opening either.
Yeah,
no, I don't know. I'm just a joke. It's okay.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. Even if I do remember it, in general, not very memorable. Shall we move on to the last question?
Yeah, great question, Chris.
Yeah, good question. Our last question comes from Megan, and she asks, what is your all-time favorite line / quote from a movie? I'm surprised we haven't gotten a question like this in the 55 episodes that we've been doing this.
All-time.
Thanks for listening, guys. This is episode 55. I'm Kyle, by the way. I'm doing the intro and
is
saying
this,
my name. But
are you gonna cut this out?
It's funny because it's like much later in the podcast because I don't think we introduced ourselves, but
we really didn't.
I'm doing that now.
Yes.
So
and I'm Mac.
yeah, don't
We'll
worry.
cut it.
We'll
cut it.
We'll cut it.
We'll cut it. No, I'm saying we'll cut it, and then you'll paste it at the beginning, and then it will lead in, or we'll be talking, and then you'll piece this audio in,
Yeah,
and then we'll transition it back to.
we'll jump back into our normal discussion.
But this conversation now is happening at the beginning, and now we're back into our now conversation.
Yes,
We time hop.
seamless transition.
Yes.
Anyway,
Especially when you splice that thing. Yeah, I don't know. I don't have a favorite.
it's interesting. I feel like you of all people that I know would have a favorite movie quote.
Because I say so many of them all the time.
You do. That's why I thought you would have something.
I think, honestly, like for me, I think that people that have like a favorite movie quote have a very narrow window of movies that they've seen.
And calling people out.
There is maybe. I mean, I could be way off. I mean, I don't. But I've talked to my brother. Like me and Sam have gone through, and what typically happens is like you'll just start talking about a movie, and we'll both just start quoting that movie, and then that's when I realize I'm like, all of these things that I see and that take place in here, and a lot of them like word association just pops up. You know, that's why I don't necessarily have like a favorite. I don't think there's any code I live by or anything that, like you watch Heat. That used to be like one of the favorite things. But how many times in a day you're gonna fucking tell someone to walk out 30 seconds or less when the heat's around the corner? You know, like so. And then the dude abides. And then I used to have a bunch from the Big Lebowski.
I was gonna say I feel like you would have had a lot from Big Lebowski.
Dude, Twister. We used to quote food.
It's a Mac Parker classic,
dude. That the American Psycho, not a menorah, you spin a dreidel. So anytime that someone says something wrong,
that's a very quotable movie.
And then the other one is we used to always say like if we'd have to leave, like I have to return some videotapes or video cassettes. Are they?
I think he says videotapes.
Yeah,
tapes has such a more like I don't know stamp on it.
Yeah.
I love the quote that he says, all I'm saying is cool it with the anti-Semitic remarks.
Yeah.
That's one of my favorites from that movie. There's a lot of lines from American Psycho that are really good.
Yeah.
I feel like, and this is a movie I just mentioned,
Funny Games, where you can say
every single line and it's iconic. No, Napoleon Dynamite. I feel like that's a movie where like almost every single line you could quote in some way and people will pick up on it. How much you want to bet I can throw a football over them there mountains?
Yep.
If coach would have put me in, I would have gone pro.
Yeah.
I just got done talking to her over 2 hours ago, so I guess you could say things are getting pretty serious. That's a very quotable movie, Napoleon Dynamite. See, I don't know if I have a favorite. I'm like you, where I don't know if there's one that I just like hold on near and dear to my heart. There's ones that I just pull out in the moment. You know, like if someone asks me a question and the answer is yes, sometimes I'll just say yarp because of fucking Hot Fuzz or whatever.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Just different things that come up organically, not necessarily ones that I think about day in and day out. I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna pull this out when Matt comes over, and I'm gonna show him how much I love this movie because I'm gonna lay a Blade Runner 2049 quote on him.
Sick.
Yeah,
I don't know if that movie's quotable though.
The first one has that quote from
Tears in the Rain.
Tears in the Rain.
Yeah.
That one's probably the most iconic from either movie. Although I do love it when Ryan Gosling yells, "God damn it!" and he like kicks the chair. That's a pretty cool
that
quote.
Only God Forgives you're saying?
I mean, same energy.
Yeah.
Just different quality of film.
Yeah, no, I don't. And I think if I had to pick like a favorite movie to quote, like let's do favorite movies. Do you have a favorite movie to quote?
Let me look at my letterbox if you have one in the barrel.
I don't. I was trying to see. I'm gonna go with
Oh, I think I have one potentially from I'm Thinking of Ending Things.
You quote that. That's
Well, it's not one I quote, but it has a quote that I like quite a bit.
Okay.
Where she's talking about the universality and the specific, where these different pieces of art and media we're supposed to kind of find ourselves in and take that unique experience that we get from it, and it's supposed to sort of apply to all sorts of different people. And I like that quote quite a bit.
Yeah. Nice.
There's one from The Revenant. It's very like just within the confines of the movie. Like, I don't know if it's very applicable to my life at all, but it's when Leo is, I think it's the scene where he's in the like makeshift tent that his friend makes him to like try to heat out the infection, and he's hearing the voice of his wife, and she's kind of whispering to him these Native American phrases where, you know, you look up at the trees and they sway in the wind so easily, but they never fall because of their strong roots or something.
Yeah.
That's one that I always think of when I think of The Revenant.
Or adversity.
Yeah. Just go like braving through the storm.
Yeah.
And
the metaphor of life.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's very pertinent to that specific moment for that character, but I do like it quite a bit.
Yeah. That's good.
Mm-hmm. I like there's some lines from Django that I like, specifically from Christoph Waltz, where at the end of the whole like standoff, he's like, in other words, you owe me $200 at the whole like town gunslinging thing.
Yeah.
After he and you silver-tongued devil, you, when she falls over after she sees mild spoilers for Django. Maybe I'll cut those out. I don't know, but I like those quotes quite a bit. Did you think of one?
Yeah. No, I was thinking about the spoilers. Oh, we got a lot of in post here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll bleep those out.
Yeah.
I'll put the Tim Allen
there you go.
Kind of like soften the blow.
About to splice it all over this bitch like Billy Corbett did.
Brady Corbett?
Damn it. Keep calling him Billy. No, I would have to say The Big Lebowski is probably the one that I would be most like likely to quote. But I'm just going through it in my head. I'm like, I think there's a lot of movies that I've seen, probably 2 quotes from those movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the one I suspected the most when I was thinking about you.
Yeah. I hate to be a basic bitch, but
you're not basic. You're a Lebowski.
Yes. I'm the dude.
You're the dude.
If you're not, or El Duderino if you're not in the whole brevity.
You just got to go to the grocery store and open a carton of milk and just drink it.
And backdate the checks for 69 cents.
Yeah. God, that one has a lot of quotes. You're right about that.
Dude, yes. I just hate that it's probably so many are so used. The one I used to, and I never, like, you can't use it in application. Well, actually, you could. A little bit in application is Jackie Treehorn treats objects like women, man.
I've seen that one in the wild. That's one that I've not only heard you say, but I've just seen it out and about.
Dude, that is one of the, yes, I love it.
It's a very prevalent quote.
Yes. Speaking
of prevalent, it's very prevalent of us to recommend a movie back and forth. And
yes.
It is your turn to recommend a film.
Yes. I just had a Frank. Yes. So I don't know. I'm gonna see what you go, and then I'll go off natural feel. All right. And,
okay.
In this hand, we have a fantastic wedding scene again, iconic wedding scene. And the right hand is Matthew Modine. You want Modine or wedding scene?
Dude, I don't know if I want more Modine after.
Yes. Okay.
After Retribution, but I feel like I might know where you're going with Modine. Maybe.
No, I doubt it.
It's not Full Metal Jacket?
No.
Okay.
But the wedding scene kind of is.
Let's go with wedding scene.
Have you seen The Deer Hunter?
I have not. That's been on my list for a while.
Let's do it.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's been a while since I've seen it, and after watching the wedding scene in Melancholia, I was like, you know what I really want to go back to is deer. Like I want to get back to it. Like now that I've seen more movies and like, you know, pick up on the vibes of where everyone's at and actually have some perspective on their lives and what they're going into and what all of it means. And I'm telling you, it'll be fascinating. Now it is like 2 hours and 45 minutes, but we got some Bobby D going on. We got the wedding scene. I mean, you haven't seen really much of John Cazale except in
The Godfather.
Yeah. Like he's got 5 films out, and this is one, and another one that at some point will be recommended. It's A Dog Day Afternoon. So yeah, I think we do The Deer Hunter. I want to do it.
Awesome.
I want to do it. It's an oldie but a goodie and an iconic piece of film.
Yeah, and I need more classic older movies in my repertoire.
Yeah.
So
it'll be a good one to talk about too. I mean, you're gonna have some new age thoughts. You're Gen Z, right?
And it's one of those few movies where I'm millennial, by the way. Thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Maybe I'll cut it out.
Bleep that.
Yeah. Tim Allen grunt. No, it's one of those movies too where luckily, even though it's an older film and even though it is kind of a classic, like I don't know much else about it.
Oh, that's why I wanted to be careful with it.
Like I know it's got De Niro. I think it's got oh shit, what's his name? The guy I impersonate all the time. Fucking Christopher Walken.
Yes, you impersonate him all the time.
Damn. That's the taste of it. I'll save it for the
the
discussion.
Yes.
And then of course, like you said, John Cazale. But other than those 3, I literally know virtually nothing about it.
We'll honestly, we're both going into this with a clean slate because I've seen this one time. I was back in high school, I want to say maybe early college. And I just remember being like, great. Like, I just saw that, you know, whatever. And yeah, as soon as like that wedding scene popped on, I was like, and I really was like getting into it. I was like, you know what? I want to see this I'll say no more because I'm super excited to actually talk about this now. And now that I have some perspective on it, like I feel like this is going to be really rewarding. Worst case scenario, I see it and I'm like, wow, it's just how I remembered. Great.
I guess we'll find out.
Yes.
In 2 weeks from now, when we talk about The Deer Hunter for episode 56. The last few episodes, I've gotten the episode numbers mixed up, so I've actually had to like go back and text-to-speech correct it. So I think I got it right this time.
We're 56 now. So I didn't tell you this either. I go on Tuesday nights over at one of the shops in Spring Lake. Mm-hmm. They do radio. It's 92.1 WGHN or something like that.
Okay.
So I do it for football, right? First time I got up there, I told the guy that I do a podcast.
Really?
So I've gotten to plug it twice now, and I think every time I go on there, I get to plug it on the radio.
Really?
Yeah. Now it's very small. I mean, it's
very small potatoes.
92.1. So
okay,
you know, but yeah, we're plugging the Neon Crew on there.
That's awesome.
It's fun. I don't know if it's gotten us anything yet, but I'm gonna keep hopping on there. It's free plug, you know.
Hey man, that's perfect.
Yeah,
I love it. I appreciate that. Cool. You said what radio station was it?
I think it's 92.1 WGHN.
Okay. Cool. So if you're ever listening to that station, you know, maybe you'll hear Mac talk about our podcast.
You got like another 5 weeks guaranteed, I think.
That's amazing.
Yes. So 5 weeks. If I go on there on Tuesday nights and get on there, I think I'll be able to get. Yeah.
We're reaching far and wide as we can.
Hell yeah.
With our limitations. But no, that's very cool. Thank you guys for listening. Be sure to check out The Deer Hunter before episode 56. These episodes come out every other Sunday, and you can catch us on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. I've updated the website. All of our current episodes should be up there. And be sure to give us some good ratings on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. That would help our engagement. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Social media, Facebook, YouTube community. You know what it is. You know the name. You know the game. Sports. EA Sports. It's in the game. Mac, what do we say?
WWTHD.
Bye, everyone.